I'm meteorologist Caitlin McGrath, and we are continuing to track Nicole, now a tropical storm with sustained winds at 50 miles per hour, moving to the west, still relatively slowly around 9 miles per hour. Now, Nicole is still forecast to strengthen as it brushes the northern Bahamas by Wednesday night. They'll start to feel the impacts as early as tomorrow morning, potentially strengthening into a Category 1 hurricane prior to making landfall in Florida. Now, I think it really depends how much we see Nicole interact with the islands, whether or not it can gain enough strength to strengthen into a hurricane, or whether it just might remain a strong tropical storm. Regardless, still a very high impact situation for the Bahamas and much of Florida as we head through the end of the week. Right now, the National Hurricane Center has that landfall occurring early Thursday morning. So new today, it has slowed down the track just a little bit more as either a Category 1 hurricane or a stronger tropical storm with winds at 70 miles per hour. They also bumped the track a little bit farther to the north. Now landfall occurring just to the north of Port St. Lucie, whereas this time yesterday it was moving to the south of Port St. Lucie. So by Thursday evening, the center of the storm still working its way through the Florida panhandle, but once it starts to interact with the Florida peninsula, it will start to weaken pretty substantially. So going to expect winds around 40-55 miles per hour as we head into Georgia and South Carolina for the end of the week. But while the center of the storm is still down in Georgia, we'll start to feel the impacts closer to home, and then the remnants of Nicole look to track right over D.C. The good news there is it would keep the heaviest of the rainfall off to our west, but still going to be a nasty end to the week, a little bit closer to home. We'll talk more about the rainfall we're expecting in just a minute, but we also want to talk about the watches and warnings currently in effect for Florida. We know a lot of folks have loved ones in Florida, maybe you have property, so make sure you pay attention. Make sure everyone is prepared here over the next several days. All of the areas you see highlighted there in red along the Florida Atlantic coast and parts of the Bahamas. So that's where we have a hurricane warning in effect. Everywhere shaded in yellow is a tropical storm warning. And we even have those tropical storm watches into the Florida Gulf Coast as well, and all the way up into Georgia and parts of South Carolina. There's also a storm surge warning in effect. It's that thin little pink line that you see there shaded a little bit darker pink along much of the Florida Atlantic coast back into parts of Georgia. That's where we could see a storm surge of 3 to 5 feet. That's just a wall of water pushing on shore on top of the ocean level and the high tides. There's also storm surge watches in effect a little bit farther north in Georgia and along parts of the Florida Gulf Coast as well. Now, this is a little bit rare. Both of our major computer models, the American and the European model, are in really solid agreement in terms of where they think the storm is going to go. Oftentimes we see several miles of difference between the models at least, but they're both in really solid agreement that by Thursday morning, the storm making landfall near Port St. Lucie. Now you can see the European model. Those are the lines you see shaded there in red, and how closely they're packed indicates how strong the storm is. And both are saying it's going to be a strong tropical storm or a weak Category 1 hurricane. The yellow lines, those are the American models. You can see they both bring it right near Port St. Lucie sometime early Thursday morning, and then into the Florida panhandle by later Thursday night, and then right up the East Coast. Now, the biggest difference is kind of the timing. The European model brings the center of the storm over D.C. a little bit sooner Friday, whereas the American model lags it a little bit slower, but a pretty similar track, both resulting in the heaviest rain staying in our western counties. So let's time it out here using Futurecast. This is the European model, but again, both are very similar in terms of thinking, just the timing's a little bit different. Here we are Thursday, 8 a.m. The center of the storm still right around the Florida panhandle, but closer to home, the clouds will already be building. This is a really far-reaching storm. By Thursday night, the center of the storm still in Florida, but the rain working its way all the way up into parts of North Carolina, even southern Virginia, could start to see some rain. And then by Friday morning, rain across our region. So plan ahead now that the Friday morning commute likely going to be a pretty wet one. The kids will need the rain gear at the bus stop, and once the rain starts Friday morning, it's not going to stop until overnight and really early Saturday morning. Here we are right around lunchtime, rain across the region, but you can see those deeper shades of yellow indicating the heavier rainfall still in our western counties. The Ohio River Valley, parts of West Virginia, far western Maryland could walk away with some pretty significant rainfall, as well as could southwestern Virginia. Here we are 5 o'clock, the evening commute. also going to be a wet one, just not going to be a nice night for any outdoor plans. Friday night football games might be impacted as well. So if you can, just stay home Friday night. We'll start to see some of those heavier bands of rain develop first off to our west, moving closer to the district later Friday evening. So this is 11 o'clock. I think Topper is going to be tracking some pretty significant rain across parts of the area as you're checking in around 11 p.m. on Friday. But then overnight, the rain will clear out. Saturday, we'll still have some clouds around earlier in the morning, but most of the weekend looks just fine, just much cooler. Also behind Nicole comes a cold front that's going to help clear out the rain, but it will also drop temperatures as we look ahead toward the weekend. Now, how much rain are we talking about? This is the European model showing about 1.5 inches in the D.C. area and surrounding counties, but you can see the farther west you go, the more rainfall you can expect. Over 2 inches in Martinsburg, 2 inches in Winchester. Don't focus so much on the exact number you see in your town, just the idea that most areas will see 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches of rain, but the farther west you go, that's where you could end up with 2 to maybe even 3 inches of rain. The American model showing a pretty similar scenario, just bringing that heaviest axis of rain into parts of southwestern Virginia, even up into parts of northern Virginia. Could see some pretty significant rain, while most of the district and the surrounding counties can expect closer to 1.5 to maybe 2 inches. So keep in mind, Nicole, still an evolving forecast. It is Tuesday, and we were talking about rain for Friday, but we are going to issue a weather watch alert ahead of the impacts of Nicole. In addition to the rain, we could see some gusty wind as well, but rain will be our biggest concern as we close out the work week, but we will keep you posted as we get closer to it.